You have probably eaten at a street food stall at some point in your life, maybe in a foreign city, on a trip you saved up for, at a plastic stool on a sidewalk with smoke rising from the grill and a menu you could not read. Maybe you pointed at what the person next to you was eating because it looked good and because you were hungry and because that is what you do when you are somewhere you have never been and you want to be part of it. Maybe you did not ask what was in it. Maybe you did not think to. Maybe it was the best thing you had ever eaten. Martin Kowalski did exactly that on a Tuesday evening in Bangkok. Martin Kowalski was 57 years old when he finally took the trip he had been planning for 20 years. He had spent 3 decades as a construction manager in Chicago, Illinois. He knew the specific smell of concrete in cold weather and the particular weight of a hard hat after a 12-hour shift. He had told himself that when he retired, he would go somewhere entirely different from anywhere he had ever been. Not a cruise, not a resort with a swim-up bar, somewhere that required a long-haul flight and a working knowledge of the phrase, "How much does this cost?" He chose Bangkok. He went alone. On his 4th evening in the city, he sat down at a plastic stool at a street stall on Yaowarat Road, the city's Chinatown district, surrounded by smoke and noise and the smell of garlic hitting hot oil. The menu was laminated and in Thai. The man behind the counter pointed at something on it. Martin did not speak Thai. He looked at what the people at the next table were eating. Pale pink shrimp resting in a clear marinade. He pointed at it and nodded. The dish cost 40 baht. He thought it was the best thing he had ever eaten. Gnathostoma spinigerum is a parasitic roundworm that exists on every continent except Antarctica. Its larvae are 3.5 millimeters long. They are armed with 8 rows of microscopic hooklets arranged around the head end of the body. They are capable of penetrating human muscle tissue and migrating continuously through the body at a rate of 1 centimeter per hour. They cannot be killed by lime juice. They cannot be killed by fish sauce or garlic or chili. They cannot be killed by stomach acid. The only thing that kills them is a specific anti-parasitic medication taken for 21 consecutive days, and that is only if the larva has not already reached somewhere that cannot be treated. They were already inside Martin before he finished the last shrimp on the plate. Remember the plastic stool on Yaowarat Road. Remember the 40 baht. We will come back to it. Martin flew home to Chicago 6 days after the meal. He had a slight stomachache on the flight that he attributed to airline food. He had a headache that he attributed to the time difference. He was tired in the way that people are tired after long trips, the particular exhaustion of being in a different time zone for 2 weeks and sleeping badly in hotel beds. He told his daughter about the trip over dinner at her apartment in Wicker Park. He showed her photographs on his phone. He said Bangkok was extraordinary and that he was already thinking about going back. She said he looked thinner. He said the food was incredible and that he had walked more in 2 weeks than he had in the past year. On the 4th day after landing, he woke up with a swelling on his left forearm. He noticed it when he was getting dressed. A raised area of skin, roughly the size of a walnut, in the middle of his forearm, soft, warm to the touch. He pressed it gently. It shifted under his fingers. He pressed it again from a different angle. The swelling moved, not dramatically, not like something jumping, more like the way a bubble shifts when you press one side of it. He stood in his bedroom and pressed the swelling 3 times and then stood very still. He told himself it was probably a bug bite. He texted his daughter a photo and told her it was nothing. She called within 4 minutes and told him to go to the doctor. He made an appointment for the following morning. By the time he arrived at the clinic, the swelling was gone. There was nothing where it had been. No redness, no tenderness. He almost told the physician he had wasted her time. He did not. He told her about Bangkok, about the raw shrimp, about the swelling that had been there and then was not. She asked him 4 questions and then picked up the phone. He was glad he went. Here is what Gnathostoma spinigerum is. It is a nematode, a roundworm, whose natural life cycle moves between freshwater environments and the digestive systems of cats and dogs. It has existed in this form for millions of years. In Thailand, where it was first identified in the stomach of a tiger at the Bangkok Zoo in 1889, It is endemic. It lives in rivers and ponds and in the bodies of the freshwater fish and shrimp that are pulled from those rivers and sold at street stalls across the country. The life cycle begins in water. An infected cat or dog passes eggs into freshwater. The eggs hatch and release larvae consumed by tiny crustaceans called copepods. A freshwater fish, shrimp, frog, or eel eats the copepod. The larva grows inside its muscle tissue, coiled and waiting. When a cat or dog eats the infected fish, the larva enters the stomach of the definitive host and matures into an adult worm. Humans are accidental hosts. When a person eats raw or undercooked freshwater fish or shrimp containing Gnathostoma larvae, the larva enters the body through the gut wall, the same way it would in a cat or a dog. Then it discovers it is in the wrong host. It cannot find its way to the stomach it evolved to occupy. It cannot complete its life cycle. It does the only thing it can do. It migrates. The larva penetrates the gut wall within hours of ingestion. It enters the abdominal cavity. It moves through fat, through muscle, through the liver, through the diaphragm, and into the chest. It follows no predictable path because there is no path it is trying to follow. It is simply moving, armed with hooklets and a biological drive that has carried its species through millions of years of evolution, looking for something it will never find. When the larva migrates into the layer of tissue just beneath the skin, it produces a swelling. The swelling appears because the body is reacting to the larva's presence. Fluid accumulates around it. The swelling is warm and soft and mobile, and it moves when you press it because the larva is alive inside it. After a few days, the larva moves on. The swelling disappears. A new one appears somewhere else. When the larva migrates to the eye, it can be seen moving behind the retina. It destroys whatever tissue it passes through. Blindness occurs in a matter of days. When the larva migrates to the spinal cord, it causes inflammation and hemorrhage along the cord. Paralysis follows. The damage is often permanent. When the larva migrates to the brain, the mortality rate exceeds 25%, even with immediate treatment. Survivors frequently have lasting neurological deficits. The dish Martin ate on Yaowarat Road is called Gung Che Nam Pla, raw freshwater shrimp marinated in fish sauce, lime juice, garlic, and fresh chili. It is one of the most widely eaten appetizers in Thai street food. It is ordered by millions of people every year, including tourists who look at the lime juice and the chili and assume, reasonably, that nothing raw could survive in that. The lime juice does not kill Gnathostoma Spinigerum larvae. Neither does the chili, neither does the fish sauce. This is a fact that has been documented in parasitology literature for decades. It is not on the menu. Here is what the doctor found. The physician who saw Martin at the clinic had read about gnathostomiasis in medical school and had never personally treated a case. She called a colleague in infectious disease while Martin was still sitting in the examination room. The colleague told her to draw blood immediately and check for eosinophilia. Eosinophils are a type of white blood cell that the immune system produces in elevated numbers in response to parasitic infection. Martin's eosinophil count was 11%, nearly 3 times the upper limit of normal. His immune system had been fighting something it could not identify for 2 weeks. She referred him to the infectious disease department at Northwestern Memorial Hospital that afternoon. The infectious disease physician explained the diagnosis to Martin and his daughter, who had arrived before Martin did. There was a larva inside him. It was alive and actively migrating. They could not see it on imaging. Too small, too mobile. The swelling on his forearm was cutaneous larva migrans, the worm in the subcutaneous tissue. The fact that it had been there, near the surface, was encouraging. It meant that, at that moment, it was not in his spine or his eyes or his brain. Martin's daughter asked what would happen if it reached his brain. The physician told her. Martin watched his daughter's face while the physician spoke. He asked how they would remove it. The physician said there were 2 options. If the larva surfaced somewhere visible, a surgeon could attempt excision. If not, the treatment was oral albendazole, 400 milligrams twice daily for 21 consecutive days. It did not kill the larva instantly. It disrupted its development and starved it over weeks. Martin asked if the medication would definitely work. The physician said it was effective in the majority of cases. She said the outcome depended partly on where the larva was when treatment began and partly on how the individual responded to the medication. She did not say 100%. Martin had spent 30 years in construction. He understood what it meant when a professional did not give you a guarantee. He started albendazole that evening. Here is what the 21 days looked like. Martin took the medication every morning and every evening and tracked each dose in a small notebook on the kitchen counter. He told almost no one. He told his daughter, who called him every day. On the 6th day of treatment, a new swelling appeared on his upper back, near the left shoulder blade. It was larger than the one on his forearm. It persisted for 4 days, tender enough that he could not lean back comfortably in a chair. On the 10th day, it disappeared. On the 13th day, he developed a headache that was different from the others, a pressure headache located behind his eyes. He called the infectious disease clinic at 7 in the morning. They told him to come in immediately. He drove himself to the hospital and sat in the waiting room and thought about the mortality rate. The MRI showed no evidence of central nervous system involvement. The headaches were a side effect of the albendazole. The physician told him on the phone that evening. He thanked her and sat on his couch for a long time without turning on the television. On the 19th day of treatment, no new swellings had appeared for 6 days. His energy was returning. The headaches had eased. He completed all 21 days. At his 6-week follow-up, his eosinophil count had returned to the normal range. The physician told him the infection had resolved. No new swellings appeared. He was 57 years old. He had spent 3 weeks watching his own skin. Here is what you need to know. Gnathostomiasis is endemic across Southeast Asia, South and East Asia, and parts of Latin America, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Japan, China, Mexico, and Ecuador report the highest rates of infection. In most of these countries, the disease is so common that physicians diagnose it regularly. In Western countries, it appears almost exclusively in travelers. The primary risk factor is consuming raw or undercooked freshwater fish, freshwater shrimp, frogs, eels, or snails. In Thailand, the most common vehicle is raw freshwater shrimp, which appears in multiple popular dishes at street stalls and restaurants across the country. They look harmless. The marinade contains lime juice. The assumption that lime juice neutralizes parasites is common, and it is wrong. The hallmark symptom is a migratory subcutaneous swelling, a soft, warm, mobile lump that appears, persists for days, then disappears and reappears elsewhere. It is frequently misdiagnosed as infection or allergic reaction. If you develop this pattern after traveling in endemic regions and eating seafood, tell your physician where you traveled and what you ate. Ask specifically about gnathostomiasis. A blood eosinophil count combined with your travel history is usually enough for diagnosis. Do not eat raw freshwater seafood in endemic regions. This means raw freshwater shrimp, raw freshwater fish, raw frogs, and raw snails. Fully cooking these foods to an internal temperature of 63 degrees Celsius kills the larvae. Freezing at -20 degrees Celsius for at least 5 days is also effective. Saltwater fish and saltwater shrimp carry different parasitic risks, but are not vectors for Gnathostoma spinigerum. If treated early, before the larva reaches the nervous system, outcomes are generally good. Once the larva reaches the spinal cord or brain, the situation changes entirely. The window between cutaneous migration and neurological involvement cannot be predicted. Martin noticed a swelling on his forearm on the 4th day after landing. He went to the doctor on the 5th. He was in treatment by the evening of the 6th. That sequence was not luck. It was attention. Martin Kowalski sat on a plastic stool on Yaowarat Road and pointed at a dish on a laminated menu in a language he did not speak. A man handed him a plate of raw freshwater shrimp in lime juice and fish sauce. He ate every one of them and thought it was the best thing he had ever eaten. He had no way of knowing what gung che nam pla was made from. He had no way of knowing that the lime juice was doing nothing. He had no way of knowing that something 3.5 millimeters long and armed with 8 rows of hooklets was already penetrating the lining of his gut before he had finished the plate. He went back to Bangkok 14 months later. He ordered grilled prawns, fully cooked, plastic stool, same smoke, same noise, same smell of garlic in hot oil. He told his daughter it was still the most beautiful city he had ever seen. You have probably eaten at a street food stall at some point in your life. Maybe you pointed at something on a menu you could not read. Maybe it was the best thing you had ever eaten. Maybe nothing happened. Martin pointed at the same thing. The larvae were already inside before he finished the plate. This is system failure. I will see you in the next waiting room.